Hey guys, welcome to this session on what are the career options for a Python programmer by Intellipaat. If you are a Python practitioner, if you know some Python, or if you are familiar with the Python programming language and you're wondering what are the career fields that you can choose from, then this is the session for you. In this session, we'll take a look at the career options that you as a Python programmer have and what those career options might be and what are the skill sets that you might need in order to pursue those career options. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's take a look at the agenda for the session. We'll begin by taking a look at an overview of the career options. So we'll take a look at all the career options. We'll take a bird's eye view of all of the career options that are available. And from there on, we'll start discussing each career option one by one. So we'll begin by taking a look at automation engineering. Then we'll take a look at web development. We'll move on to ethical hacking. Then we'll take a look at game development. And finally, we'll take a look at data scientist. So for each of these sections, we'll take a look at the introduction, what these career paths involve, what do people with these job titles do. Then we'll move on to take a look at the skill set that you need, the tools, some of the tools that you might need to know in order to become a professional in these fields. And then later on, we'll take a look at the average salary of these jobs in US, UK, and India, so that you get a good feel of what these career options could yield to you once you're done pursuing them. All right, so let's get started. So first, let's take a look at an overview of the career options. So since Python is quite a versatile language, you can have a few career options in Python. So if you know Python, then there are many fields that you can go into. Some of these are the ones that we're discussing here. It's not that these are the only fields that you can go into. There are many other fields as well, but these are the fields that are the most prominent ones. First is the automation engineer field. Second is web development. Third is ethical hacking. Fourth is game development. And then there's data scientist. Data scientist, machine learning engineer, they're both closely related. So we've shoved them all into one single field. All right, let's take a look at automation testing. So we'll first have an introduction. So what is automation testing engineer? So automation testing is done when a person writes Python scripts that can be used to check whether or not computer software is behaving the way it's expected to. For instance, if you have a computer software and you wish to check whether or not it's working correctly, or whether or not things that have been used to make to build it are using correctly, the components are working correctly, such as the database interaction, the network layer interaction, so on and so forth, you can write Python scripts that can automate this process. Although there are people out there who do it manually, automation is really taken off, and nowadays people prefer having an automated test orientation. Now let's take a look at some of the tools. These are just some of the things that you might need to know in order to become an automation tester. The first thing is Selenium. Although automation testing requires a lot of tools and there are a lot of tools out there, Selenium is by far one of the most popular ones. It's an automation testing tool that allows you to automate a browser, most notably Chrome, and using that you can just instruct it to find elements, click elements, fill in some text fields, so on and so forth. And the browser will follow all the instructions that you have written and will follow an entire use case scenario. In case something fails, it will notify you immediately. So instead of you having to do it all manually, the browser will take a look at all of that and then will notify you whether or not a server is not working or it's getting an incorrect response. This is all done through the user experience flow. So this browser will act as a user. It will be automated by Python scripts. So how a user will interact with the product is how the product is going to be automated using Python, and then the browser will make the interactions happen. And if something goes wrong, then we will be notified. But what about from the development perspective? This is where testing comes into play. So you can take a look at PyTest. PyTest is one of the most popular frameworks for testing in Python. It allows you to write tests. It allows you to create mocks. It allows you to create stubs. It allows you to basically take a look at the code and then test the code itself instead of taking a look at the output or the end product and then using the Python code to automate that end product's interaction. So here you'll take a look at the code. This is more like white box testing. So here you'll take a look at the code, you will write test for the code to check whether or not it's working correctly or not. And then later on, those tests could be part of the test suite, which then will help us understand how you can go about doing those. Then the Spy unit, it's another testing tool, but it's focused mainly on testing the code and testing individual components or individual units of code. Other parts of the code could be isolated, so your application doesn't need to know much about it, and you just need to know PyUnit or the unit testing tools that you have available. PyUnit is quite popular in both the development and testing communities. So Selenium, PyTest, and PyUnit are three of the things that you might need to know in order to become an automation tester. Now let's take a look at the average salary of an automation tester. So in US, it's $98,000 per annum. In India, it's 6.15 lakhs per annum. And in UK, it's 62,000 euros. So as you can see, this is what the average salary of an automation tester is. This is the average salary. This could vary widely depending on the company, the skill set, the experience, and so on and so forth. But on an average, a person gets paid this much. Now we'll take a look at web developer and we'll understand what is involved in creating web applications. Now, in case you are wondering how you can get the skills that I'm describing, how you can learn to use these tools in order to further your career in Python, do stick with us to the end and we'll guide you through some of the resources that you can use in order to get better at these tools and easily pick up these skills so that you can get it done, right? All right. So a web developer that uses Python can build the backend of a web application. Python is used to build the backend. Now the backend can either serve the entire web application. So it could be all the markup is templatized and then you can get data from the database and then hydrate the markup and then send it to the user. So this is how PHP would work. So you can use that way, or you can create a web API. Basically what web APIs allow you to do is allow you to systematically and programmatically expose some data that you have in your database. So in case you wish to expose all the lists of users available in your database, just their username and the date of birth, you can do that, and then the front end of the application will take a look at the data that is sent back and then build the entire web page on the client side. So either way is useful, and Python supports both the ways, so it's quite versatile as we have already discussed, and you can do it that way. Now let's take a look at some of the tools that you might need in order to become a web developer, the kinds of technologies that you need to know. So web development involves the use of many tools and technologies. Some of these are, the first one is Django. Django is by far the most popular one. It's currently in its third version. It's really a really good framework, very easy to get started with. It's got batteries included, so anything that you might need to do in order to create a web application, such as database interaction, authentication, authorization, serialization, deserialization, response parsing. There are so many things that are needed, and Django makes it all easy for you. It allows you to break up your entire web application or the backend of your web application into smaller applications, which can then be used to create separate functionalities or separate features. So in order to create an authentication system, you can create separate applications for authentication, and that way you can just plug and play your applications, which is quite easy to use. Then there's Flask. In order to get a higher level of access and control on the code that you write, you can use Flask. Flask is a micro framework. It only takes care of a few subsets of the thing, and the rest of the things are left on you for you to figure out. Flask works well with other tools as well. In case you wish to introduce your own database access technologies, such as an object or object relational mapper, or you just want to do it the traditional way by getting the data from the database and converting each row into a domain object, you can do that with Flask as well. And then comes Web2Py. Web2Py isn't that popular, but it's quite useful in some scenarios, especially if you have a really small application or you want to build applications for quick prototyping purposes. Web2Py is a very easy to learn tool. Web2Py is also quite good for you to use on your personal projects and so on, and they can help you out with a lot of things as well. So Django, Flask, and Web2Py are three of the most popular tools that are written in Python and are used in web development. Let's take a look at the average salary of a web developer. So in US, it's 104,000 US dollars. In India, it's 7.25 lakhs per annum. And in the UK, it's 76,000 pounds. So as you can see, it's quite a large sum of money. And again, these are indicative, these are not exact. So you need to take that into consideration as well. Let's take a look at ethical hacking. So what is ethical hacking? An ethical hacker tries to break into a system in order to find out security loopholes that need to be fixed. It is to be understood that ethical hackers are employed by the company in whose system the hacker tries to break into. So you get onboarded into a company on a contract basis. They ask you to have 3 months full access to the systems that they want to check whether or not are hackable or not. You can then take a look at their networking schemes. You can take a look as pretending as a malicious user. You then need to figure out ways through which you can break into their system. If you find a way, it's your duty to report back to the people who have employed you, and those people can then fix those things, and you could even help them out into fixing these problems. So that would be really useful, and that's why ethical hacking is all about. That's what ethical hacking is all about. Let's take a look at some of the tools. Now, the tools for ethical hacking are not just based in Python, but Python is quite popular in this field because it's very easy to learn, and ethical hacking is mostly about networking. But if you know programming, then that could be really really helpful. The first one is Scapy. Now, Scapy is a tool that allows people to sniff network packages. So packages that are coming in or out of a router or coming in and out of a network, Scapy can be used to take a look at those packages. And if it's interacting with an unsafe network, such as you are on you're in a cafe and a person is logged onto the same router in the cafe as you, and they are interacting with a non-HTTPS website, which means it's not secure, and anything that is being sent over the network could be easily intercepted and then taken into account. So a person who can take a look at the username and password that you're sending over the network could easily hack into your system. So that's what Scapy does. Then there's FlowGrep. What FlowGrep does is that it takes a look at the request and response coming in and out of a network, and it matches the response body with a particular pattern that you're sending it. So if you want to get all the requests that have username or password in the request body, then you can take a look at that. Or if you want all the network requests that are going to a specific domain, then you can take a look at that as well. FlowGrep allows you to narrow down the request that you're taking a look at. Then there's Subroot. It allows you to take a look at all the subdomains available for a particular domain. So if you are working on an example.com and you want to take a look at all the domains that you can explore, instead of finding out yourself, you can use Subroot and it'll tell you whether or not mail.example.com or sample.example.com or database.example.com, lms.example.com are these domain names available for a normal user, and if they are, then how can we use them? That's where ethical hacking tools come into play. These are some of the subset of the tools. The tools are really large in number, and there are a lot of tools available. And again, we'll take a look at different methodologies, and we'll help you navigate these tools in order to understand how you can learn them. So stick with us till the end. But till then, let's just take a look at what else we have. Let's take a look at the average salary of an ethical hacker. So the average salary of an ethical hacker in the US is $110,000, which is quite a lot. And then in India, it's 9.25 lakhs per annum, and in the UK, it's 86,000 pounds. So with that in mind, let's take a look at game development using Python. So game development is quite a vast field. Many people get into programming to learning how to build games of their own. Now, game developer uses Python to build games which can be played on a variety of platforms such as computers, mobile, and so on and so forth. There are many ways that you can build games on using Python, and we'll take a look at some of them now. So let's take a look at the tools. The first one is Pygame. Pygame is one of the most easy to use, uh, Python gaming frameworks. It allows you to build games using some of the most common technologies that you come to use, such as sprite sheets and collision detection, and it does all of these things for you. Many of the gaming engines that we will discuss will take care of the physics for you. So in case you throw something in the air in a 3D game, how does it then get back onto the surface that we have created, and what the interaction will be like? All of that is taken care of many of the game engines. Pygame does have extensions that allow you to do that, so you can take a look at those as well. And it makes it really easy for us to understand how to use these gaming tools. And these gaming tools are quite easy to use by themselves as well. Then comes PyOpenGL. So OpenGL is a graphics library that has been created and is being used by a lot of people to create a lot of different things. The PyOpenGL is the Python extension, and it allows you to write Python code in order to create OpenGL scene graphs, objects, and monitor their interaction with each other. OpenGL allows us to efficiently render complicated objects on the scene graph or on the screen that we have available. And in those screens, many games use OpenGL extensively. So in order to create stellar visuals and great graphics, you need to understand how to use OpenGL. And for Python users, you can use PyOpenGL for that. PyOpenGL also allows you to write your own OpenGL scene graphs and interpret some of the OpenGL objects that have been created by other people. So it's quite easy for us to use as well. So do understand how to use that and try and use that as well. Then comes Kiwi. So in case Pygame didn't work out for you, you found it to be too complicated or confusing, then Kiwi is an alternative to that. Kiwi also does many of the same things that Pygame does, but it's very easy to understand. It's very easy to use. It also allows you to create applications or create games that can be used in either of the mobile applications or the desktop applications or many other places. So you can take a look at Kiwi as well if Pygame seems to be a little too daunting for you. But I would recommend that you check out all of these tools, get a feel for which one serves your needs the best, and then use that. Let's take a look at the average salary. In the US, it's $115,000. In India, it's 8.5 lakhs per annum, and in the UK, it's 72,000 pounds for it. So that's how that works. And now let's take a look at data scientists. So a data scientist takes a lot of data and gets useful insights out of the data, or what they do is they take the data and train a model which can make predictions by learning from the data. So data science has elements of machine learning as well. Data science is part of machine learning and a part of broader range of artificial intelligence, which takes a look at the data and figures out what we can extract out of it in order to get better predictions. Take a look at some of the tools that are available for us as data scientists. We have data scientists, we have many tools available. These are a few subsets of them. The first one is Pandas. Pandas is a tool that if you have worked with data science for any number of time, it's a tool that allows you to take a look at structured data. So if you have data saved in a CSV file, in an Excel file, in an Excel worksheet, if you have data stored in a database file, you can get it into your Python program using Python or using Pandas, and then you can visualize the data. You can perform data wrangling tasks. You can group the data, sort the data, drop some of the columns, get some of the data, clean the data. There's a lot you can do with this. Especially the cleaning part and the cleaning the data, dropping columns, all of this is done ridiculously fast in Pandas. It is very performance optimized, so it's very useful in that regard as well. Then comes NumPy. NumPy is by far one of the most popular languages out there. So NumPy is one of the most popular libraries out there. NumPy is used for numerical manipulation. So if you are someone who's getting into the crux of data science and you're trying to come up with algorithms and you're creating a lot of simple equations, but you want them to run as fast as possible, in Python using NumPy is quite a good thing. Because in Python, the normal data types that we use store a lot of unnecessary information that are not that useful for generic computation. NumPy strips them out and allows you to perform these computations quite easily. It has a lot of convenience functions as well that allows you to just lean over the initial complexities and then figure out how to apply these functions on the data that you have. It has functions to calculate the sine and cosine values and do matrix multiplications, transformations, Fourier transforms, so on and so forth. So any data complicated task, a numerically complicated task, NumPy can perform really easily. Then there's scikit-learn. Scikit-learn is by far one of the most easy to learn libraries. And what it does is that it takes care of the initial hurdles of learning how to create a machine learning model or a data science model by learning the algorithms. So instead of having you implement all the algorithms, scikit-learn takes care of that. It contains a lot of generic algorithms that have been developed by people who are working as data scientists for a long time. So what they do is that they take the data, they convert it, and then they send it back to the users. So in case you wish to become a data scientist and you want to take a look at scikit-learn, you can take a look at that as well. In scikit-learn, you take a lot of packages that scikit-learn provides, and in those there are packages for accuracy testing, training testing, and splitting the data, cleaning the data, or if you want to build a model, you can just import a generic class that can take in the data, take in the data, train the model, and then allows you to make the predictions. And those could be saved to be used or exposed later on as well. So these are the three libraries that are incredibly useful in data science with Python. There are others available as well, but these are the ones that are the most useful ones. All right, let's take a look at the average salary. So the average salary of a data scientist in the US is 112,000 US dollars. In India, it's 9.75 lakhs per annum, and in the UK, it is 87,000 pounds. So as you can see, data scientist is a job that's quite in demand. It's quite one of the most popular jobs and one of the most well-paying ones as well. And with that, we've come to the end of the session. Now, don't go anywhere because we'll show you some of the tools and techniques that can help you out to learn these things. In case you wish to get in contact with us and take a look at the things that we can do for you, then please give us a call at the numbers that are listed on the screen. And if you're more of an email person, then there's an email listed on the screen as well that you can give us and that you can uh, drop an email on, and we will get in touch with you as soon as possible. So we provide a lot of courses and we'll like to discuss this with you so that you can take a look at what are the kinds of services that we provide that can help you attain these resources or these skills. So let's take a look at that.